right, parents, I want to have a really big conversation with you. It's challenging and difficult. This topic is not one that we like to talk about, but I think it's time to talk about it. What is, or maybe it's several things, what are your greatest parenting fears? What do you fear the most? What do you fear the most about your child? What do you fear happening? Some of you might say, Randy, I'm afraid that my child's not going to go to school and they're going to flunk out. I'm afraid that my child's not going to have any friends. I'm afraid that my child is going to get anxious. Maybe dropping off at school, having some challenges. Maybe my fear is that my kid's not going to get enough sleep or get enough nutrition, or whatever it would be. All right. So what I'm going to suggest to you are three fears that basically are like core fears, that basically everything that you might say is in these fears that you talk about are in three different categories. And I think if you can get good with these three core fears, then all this other stuff that you fear may not be as difficult and challenging. Okay? Now these are in no particular order, okay? But the first fear is death, okay? Basically, one of the greatest fear is your child dying, okay? And some of you may answer that as one of your greatest fears. So one is your child dying. Two is your child being in jail. That would be a second core fear. And then I think a third core fear would be homelessness. Homelessness, right? So if you can look at your situations, you can look at the things where you say, oh, I'm afraid, I have a fear that my son is not going to graduate high school. Well, I get that, but what is that core fear? What is that core fear? Well, maybe you might be, he's not going to graduate high school, and if I ask you enough questions, it might be, well, he's going to be just depressed and sad, and he's going to kill himself. Okay, well, there's that fear of death that we talked about. Or maybe it's not death, but maybe your son doesn't graduate, and then you're like, because he doesn't graduate, he doesn't get a good job, and he doesn't have the ability to pay for an apartment, a house or something, so he's going to be homeless. Okay, boom, there you go, he's homeless. And that's that core fear. So when we're talking about working on these fears that you have, I really want you to think about those three core fears of, death, jail, and homelessness. And I hate to say it in this way, can you accept, can you get good, can you handle, I mean, we can have a whole discussion about can you handle it. The only time you can't handle something is if you take your own life. That would mean that you wouldn't be able to handle it. But everything else you would be able to handle. It just might not be the way that you like it, okay? But can you handle the death of your child, right? Can you handle your child being in jail? Can you handle your child being homeless? I know those are really challenging things to ask of you, right? Those are challenging and these are hard. And of course, we don't want any of our children to suffer in those ways. But if you can get good, if you can accept, if you can really get strong at your child being in one of those categories, then it makes all these other these other fears that we have, it makes them easier to deal with, okay? So we don't now have to be a helicopter parent, or we don't have to do things or accommodate or force our kids to do things, because we accept that at those three different levels, those core fears, that we can handle it, okay? Is this making sense? Because this is challenging for some parents to understand and really to kind of get their minds around, because who would ever really want to accept that their child has died, right? There's a lot of obviously grieving that goes through that and a lot of challenging times, but can we get you in a place that we can help you accept and be able to handle death, jail, and homelessness? That's really hard work, really hard work, but if we can get you there, I think you'll feel better as a parent. All right, y'all? All right. Thanks for having that difficult conversation with me.
On track, now we gon' way up. Don't be used as easy as a layup.